Hello and welcome to the Voice of Iron. And on this session, I'll be reading and ranting about the Marauder II Assault Battlemech. First, I'll be going over the canon information that we have on the Marauder II through SARNA, and then I'll be giving my personal thoughts and experiences with this mech. Description. First built in 3012, the Marauder II is a successful attempt to take the firepower of the Marauder and combine it with the reliability and ruggedness of an assault chassis. In 3010, officers of the famous Wolf's Dragoons mercenary unit contracted with Blackwell Industries of New Valencia on the project of modifying the highly successful 75-ton Marauder into a 100-ton assault mech. Working from existing plans, the design phase proved to be very short. The process of reinforcing the Marauder chassis turned out to be easier than expected, enhanced by the removal of the finicky and temperamental General Motors Whirlwind autocannon for a much simpler large laser. First appearing with the famous Zeta Battalion before spreading to Alpha Regiment, the Dragoons' enemies soon learned to fear the appearance of Marauder IIs, as foreshadowing a major advance. As for the remainder of the Third Succession War, it remained the exclusive property of the mysterious Dragoons. This changed after the Fourth Succession War, when Colonel Jamie Wolfe authorized Blackwell to increase production and allow outside buyers access, on the provision that each sale had to be approved by the Dragoons. Now spreading in limited numbers, the largest buyer outside the Dragoons would be Miller's Marauder's mercenary unit, famed for its almost exclusive use of the Marauder chassis and the secret loan of its dropships to Zeta Battalion for their climactic rescue of the rest of the Dragoons on crossing. When new unit commander Major Susan Barber expressed interest in the Marauder II, Colonel Wolfe gave Blackwell the go-ahead to supply her with all she needed. By the clan invasion, the now renamed Barber's Marauder IIs would boast among a regiment's worth of the fearsome assault mech. Though Barber's Marauder IIs would help drive the considerable interest and demand for the powerful assault mech, they would also damage its seeming aura of invincibility following their ignoble destruction by Clan Jade Falcon on Connaz in June 3064. Seeking to rekindle interest in their flagship mech following its disastrous showing on Connaz, GM Blackwell noted the Vicor Industries triggered refresh of classic designs to develop a more powerful and visually refreshed model. The resulting MAD-4S variant was the first widely available Marauder II, Wolf's Dragoons easing of sale restrictions, partly motivated by profit, but also as a means to punish the Lyran Alliance for the theft of Blackwell-developed light fusion engine as of 3067, selling the mech to all interested parties, save those the Dragoons were fighting against in the Chaos March, the word of Blake and the members of the Trinity Alliance. The demand for the Marauder II would only increase in the Jihad, following the Blakist destruction of GM and Blackwell's production facilities for the mech as part of their vendetta against the Wolf's Dragoons, with many salvaged examples in use among the nations of the Inner Sphere in a large number of variations following the Blakists' fall, the most notable being the MAD-6D, developed by the Federated Sons and shared with the Republic of the Sphere. As the Dragoons' Marauder II factory on Outreach didn't survive the Jihad, Irian Battlemechs Unlimited purchased the design plans from the Dragoons and, after retooling their awesome lines on Irian, began producing the newly acquired design. During the Dark Age era, the Republic of the Sphere ordered Irian to shut down many of their mech production lines, including the Marauder II. However, they never ceased producing them. Weapons and equipment. With the Marauder already a powerful and popular mech, the Dragoons' goals with the Marauder II were to enhance its abilities by strengthening its chassis to carry a much heavier armor and weapons load. The mech was then armored with 19 tons of Valiant lamellar armor, giving it protection that rivals that of the Atlas, and fitted with 13 additional heat sinks, a total of 29, to allow a more ferocious rate of fire. Retaining its progenitor's Velar 300 rated engine, with the MAD-4A built around an extra light fusion engine to save more weight for weapons. To make up for the reduced mobility, the Marauder II was outfitted with 3 Chilton 600 jump jets that gave it a jumping capability of up to 90 meters. Retaining only the 2 Magna Mark II medium lasers, the 5A variant of the Marauder II carries as its primary weapons a pair of Magna Firestar ERPPCs in its arms, which give it a powerful long-range punch compared to the original 4A. The ERPPCs are backed up by a right torso-mounted Mydron XL LB-10X autocannon, which gives the Marauder II the tactical flexibility of using both solid and cluster rounds. Curiously, the 5A is built with case only in its right torso, yet its 30-round LBX autocannon magazine sits in the left torso, leading some observers to suggest that another projectile weapon field kit variant was being contemplated. Variants. The MAD-4A Marauder is built using technology available in 3012, when the design was first constructed. The mech carries as its primary weapons 2 Magna Hellstar PPCs and replaces the autocannon 5 of the original Marauder with a Magna Mark III large laser. For close combat, the mech carries a pair of medium lasers. Additionally, the mech is built using a standard fusion engine, as the XL engine used on the 5A was not available at the time. The MAD-4H. Using a shipment of Lyran-bound MAD-4Ss hijacked by pirates, the 4H Marauder is a refit developed by the Marian Hegemony that replaces the heavy Gauss rifle with 4 rocket launcher 20s, 6 rocket launcher 15s, and a rocket launcher 10, which gives the 4H incredible close-range damage capabilities. The MAD-4K is a variant based mostly on the 4S. Though it retains the GM300 light engine of its predecessor, the 4K has a Lord's Light 3 heavy PPC mounted in each arm. Under each PPC is a Diverse Optics ER small laser. In order to make room for the larger cannons, the heavy Gauss rifle is replaced with a lighter, standard Poland main Model A Gauss rifle. The MAD-4L. This Dark Age era variant was created by the Capellan Confederation. It uses a light fusion engine to reduce vulnerability to engine destruction, and carries a Gauss rifle in each arm. These are supported by a single torso-mounted ERPPC. A Guardian ECM suite powers the stealth armor that encases this design. It retains the ability to jump 90 meters at a time. The MAD-4S. Introduced in 3064, the 4S Marauder II uses the new GM300 light fusion engine to make it less vulnerable to a side torso destruction. The visual aesthetic of the design was also altered to make it look even more intimidating. The mech carries 2 Magna Firestar ERPPCs as its primary weapons, and 2 Diverse Optics ER medium lasers for close ranges. For added punch at medium to short ranges, the 4S carries a massive Blackwell Arms Thunderfist heavy Gauss rifle. The design specs of the Lyran Pride and Joy, stolen by the Dragoons in revenge for the Lyran theft of the light fusion engine technology. The jump jets are upgraded to Chilton 850 Mark II models and the TNT system to a Dragwell High-Res 4. Despite this, following the Jihad, the Lyrans adopted it as if it was their own. The MAD-5B. This 3050 variant carries the same weaponry as the standard Marauder II, but replaces the LB-10X autocannon with a Gauss rifle. To make room for this weapon, the MAD-5B only carries 16 double heatsinks. The MAD-5C. This version carries 32 single heatsinks. The weapons are those of the standard Marauder II, but this time an Ultra Autocannon 5 is carried instead of the LB-10X. The MAD-5W. Developed by the Word of Blake but also used by Comstar, this 3070 variant uses a standard fusion engine. Each arm contains a snub-nosed PPC that does its best work up close, while a heavy PPC is mounted in the body. A C3I computer helps make this Marauder II's weapons more accurate. Perhaps the most startling feature is enough improved jump jets to move up to 150 meters in a single leap. The MAD-4A. Introduced during the Dark Age, this variant carries an ERPPC and medium X pulse laser in each arm, while the torso mount weapon carries an Ultra AC-10 with 3 tons of ammunition in a case-protected bay. Powered by a light fusion engine and equipped with a compact gyro, the mech is protected by 19 tons of armor and carries 18 double heatsinks. The MAD-6C. This Marauder II carries 3 ERPPCs and 2 ER medium lasers. What truly makes it frightening to opposing pilots is the fact that it carries maximum armor and uses a compact gyro to carry 22 double heat sinks, enough to allow it to fire its main battery with very little heat buildup. The MAD-6D. Based on the standard MAD-5A Marauder II, this variant uses an XL engine to provide power. The weapons have been replaced with snub-nose PPCs, light PPCs, and a rotary AC-5. 3 tons of ammunition in a case-protected bay provides plenty of endurance. The single heatsinks were traded out for double heatsinks, and improved jump jets provide a 150-meter jump radius. The MAD-6M. A refit developed in the Fragmented Free Worlds League, the 6M is built around an endo steel frame and uses a 400 rated XL engine to push its top speed to 64 kilometers per hour. The jump range is also increased to 120 meters. It carries a Guardian ECM suite in the torso, but the biggest change is to the weaponry. The dorsal cannon is an ERPPC, while the arm pods mount experimental large and medium X-pulse lasers. The MAD-6S. This variant was introduced in the Dark Age. It has a top speed of 54 kilometers per hour and a 90-meter jump radius. Powered by a light fusion engine, it carries an ERPPC and medium pulse laser in each arm. A Gauss rifle is carried in the right torso and is protected by case. It also carries a forward-facing ER small laser and a head-mounted anti-missile system that covers the mech's rear. 17 double heatsinks deal with the heat. The MAD-8K. A Draconis Combine variant produced by Independence Weaponry, this variant carries a standard PPC and a light PPC in each arm. A Gauss rifle is in the torso mount and is protected by a Case 2 system. Maximum protection is provided by 25.5 tons of ballistic reinforced armor. To save weight for the armor, an XL engine is fitted. The MAD-10D. Produced for the AFFS, this variant uses an XL engine, XL gyro, and endo-composite skeleton to save weight. The arms mount a clan-spec ERPPC and a medium X pulse laser, while a large, re-engineered laser is fitted to the torso. 4 jump jets allow it to cover 120 meters in a jump, and the mech can reach a top speed of 64 kilometers per hour. 20 double heatsinks are provided, and the mech carries the maximum amount of armor possible. And finally, the Marauder II-C. Not to be confused with the Marauder II-C. The Marauder II-C is a variant specifically built for Wolf's Dragoons using clan technology. The mech is powered by a 400 rated Clan XL engine, which gives it a maximum speed of 64.8 kilometers per hour, matching the original Marauder. A Clan Endo steel chassis and Clan ferrofibrous armor offset the increased engine weight. Additionally, the mech is armed with 2 Clan ER PPCs, 2 Clan ER medium lasers, and a Clan LB-10X autocannon. Finally, the Marauder II-C has excellent mobility provided by its jump jets with a jumping distance of 120 meters. It should also be noted, for the sake of history, that at some point, the infamous bounty hunter got his hands, or their hands, her hands? It's complicated, on a Marauder II, and it was built with, again, all clan technology, pretty similar to the Marauder II-C, not to be confused with the Marauder II-C. However, it also had a targeting computer and pulse weapons on board, as well as a Gauss rifle to make sure that this thing was as deadly as possible. Like, it's ridiculous. Also, it was painted green and with C-bill signs painted all over it. Subtle, right? Finally, the Marauder II has the following design quirks. It's a command Battlemech, to give you a little bit of that advantage when entering the field. It has hyper-extending actuators, much like its original cousin mech, allowing it to flip around with ease with those arms. And, controversially, it has a narrow/low profile. Point of note, looking at the model, I kind of see where they're coming from with that, but I'll get to that later. And now, personal notes. So, the Marauder II. So I fought in a Marauder II, specifically the MAD-4A, during the Fourth Succession War, and I felt dang near invincible against Liao forces in this thing. I fought through an entire small city without ever receiving internal damage, just armor. It is an incredibly powerful machine. It's 100 tons, and it can jump. That's terrifying. This machine it's a monster. It's slow because, it's an assault mech, but that's like saying that an all-energy mech is gonna have some heat trouble. It's a given. You're going into this knowing that it's a 100-tonner. Plus, the jump jets make up for that. At least on the tabletop, you can flip around in an instant with those jump jets. And of course, any major terrain problems you can just skip. On top of all of that, right, the Marauder II has the same weapons loadout. Well, the first Marauder II has the same weapons loadout as its cousin, the original Marauder. 2 PPCs, and if you're driving the Davian variant, I think the 3D, then it's also got that large laser. And that's a very good weapons payload, but this thing has the heat sinks to be able to fire everything regularly. And scarier, it has enough armor to never really be a problem. You're not going to get knocked off the field before you get a chance to fire everything repeatedly. Like, enemy lances are going to have to gang up on you. I got a small story where I was fighting against this rogue general in the Isle of Skye. We were contracted to help the Lyrans kind of take this guy down. He was kind of crackpot. And we had to deploy with the Lyrans to try and take things out. And we had assault mechs. We had, my gosh, by the end of that mission, we had deployed 2 full king crabs, as well as a stalker, and actually don't remember what the Lance Commander was driving in that one. It was something ridiculously not fitting, like a dragon for the speed or something. But regardless, we dropped down and there was a Marauder II on the field. Me and my lance mates, we had to literally strategize entirely around that Marauder II. And I mean, this was around the time of the Fourth Succession War, so this wasn't even the 5A, right? We didn't even have to contend with ERPPCs in this case. We were just terrified of a standard Marauder II, if you can consider any such thing standard. And it was using the terrain to its advantage. It was low and slow, and it was kind of working its way around because there was rocky terrain. And almost every time we tried to get a little close to where it would pop out from behind rocks where it hadn't before and ambush us. And it caused massive problems. We lost a lot of mechs that way. A lot. So ultimately, 2 of us, 2 assault mechs, again, I believe I was driving a King Crab that day, and my buddy and a stalker had to work together to take that thing down. And while that may sound like an overkill combo, it really wasn't. We had to prioritize this thing. And that's the kind of aura, that's the kind of threat this thing brings to the table. Quite literally, in the case of the tabletop game. Now, I mentioned back in the quirks section around the variants that this thing has the narrow/low profile trait. And that's pretty controversial because it's a big boy. Like, it's huge. This thing is a massive mech, and yet they gave it narrow/low profile. Now, its cousin mech, the original Marauder, it kind of does look narrow. You can kind of see that, and especially if you go by the old art, it was spindly. So that just kind of made sense. However, for the Marauder II, especially with the current art, you're like, how the heck does that have narrow, low profile? It certainly isn't narrow. I'm going to give it that. But in a rare moment where I'm actually going to try and defend something controversial, hear me out. I often get ambushed by king crabs. Like, king crabs are an incredible ambush mech. They're 100 tons, and they're oriented pretty similarly to a Marauder, and arguably they have an even larger footprint, and that thing can sneak up and hide behind rocks, behind buildings, and just pop out, ambush people, blast them to pieces, and leave. Now, why am I talking about a king crab being an ambush mech in the middle of my Marauder 2 video? Well, it's simple. That thing, despite being 100 tons and one of the biggest mechs I've ever seen, with one of the widest cockpits I've ever seen, is still low to the ground enough between its kind of chicken legs and flat top to where it can easily sneak up and sneak around. And I've noticed that the Marauder II is similarly low to the ground. And holding the Marauder II and the original Marauder models right next to each other, these are the new sculpts, if it matters, it is actually lower to the ground than the original Marauder is. Mostly because the original Marauder has that giant AC5 mount on top. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if that counts as cheating or not, but ultimately, it's a squat mech. It's huge, it's gigantic, it definitely ain't narrow, but I can actually see where it comes from with the whole low profile thing. Now, is it taller than a lot of other non-assault mechs? Absolutely. I'm not going to make any allusions to the fact that, yeah, it's still taller than a lot of other mechs. But what I'm saying is I can understand, especially with those reversed kind of chicken legs and a roughly flat top, that large laser does not stick up nearly as much as the AC5 did in its predecessor. I can kind of see where they're coming from if you're using it for an ambusher. Now, again, that's not the strongest argument. I totally understand it. For instance, like a Raven, which doesn't have the narrow/low profile trait, alright, is a lot smaller than this thing. It's shorter, it's narrower. I get that, it's controversial to give it to this thing. I figured I'd at least mention that I kind of see where they were coming from with that. But again, that's more of a side tangent. Ultimately, what makes this thing so special is the fact that it has an impeccable weapons payload. I mean, 2 PPCs alone is nothing to sneeze at, and then you combine that with the large laser, or later, 2 ERPPCs and a Gauss rifle. I'm not even going to address the LB-10X version, because the Gauss rifle is just even cooler, but like, that's a horrifying machine. Oh, and it has 2 medium lasers too, or ER medium lasers, depending on later, which is great. It's just, the Marauder 2 is incredibly scary, and 29 heat sinks. Where's the, that Detroit Become Human meme where he's talking about, like, the insane number of stab wounds? It's 29 heat sinks! Like, oh my gosh. And they're single heat sinks, too. And then later on, they slap this thing with 16 double heat sinks that... One of these variants had 44 heat dissipation capacity. It had 22 double heat sinks. It's later in the timeline, but still, like, this is a horrifying machine. And I love it for it. It's so good. Almost everything that I said that I liked about the original Marauder applies to this thing. You can take things down at range, you can take your time in the back of the field. On top of that, you can move with most of the rest of a tactical squad. Of course, in this case, you'll be moving with assault mechs, but hey, you can jump to make up for the fact that it's a little slower. And scarier, you have the same amount, roughly. You have almost as much armor as an Atlas, and you're able to do all of this from a command mech in either a backline or a frontline position just as comfortably. The Marauder II takes the Marauder and quite literally just hops it up on steroids. It's chunkier, it's heavier, it's got more heat dissipation, meaning that everything that the Marauder does, this thing can do even better except speed. And even then, that gets resolved eventually. There's not too much more to say about it. Again, in my personal experience, every time I see a Marauder II on the battlefield, I get scared. Even if I'm driving one, because it's one of the only things that can actually damage me to a meaningful degree if I'm driving a Marauder II, but especially if I'm not, that thing becomes priority target almost immediately. For those of you who are familiar with 40k, it's a big distraction Carnifex on the table, except this thing is more than a distraction. It will kill you if you even try to ignore it. It's horrifying, and I love it. Now, I can't wrap this up without at least mentioning some of the metadata on this thing. It was, of course, in-universe, developed by, well, commissioned by, and further assisted by and primarily used by the Wolf's Dragoons, who were originally scouts from Clan Wolf of the clans, and then later turncoats and basically clan tier warriors who were fighting on the side of the Inner Sphere. They're very protagonisty, for better or for worse, and as the timeline goes on, I've seen a lot of people argue that it's for worse, although I think that more applies to Clan Wolf themselves as the whole, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, they were developed by people who knew that the Marauder could handle a lot more. Again, the Marauder 2C, not to be confused with the Marauder 2, C, well, 2 space C, existed. The Wolf's Dragoons already knew that the Marauder frame could be upgraded. And I believe it's even mentioned in the lore, because Blackwell was like, great, you want us to add 25 tons to a mech? Yeah, right. And then they were shocked to learn, oh, it actually doesn't take that much to modify this thing. It can handle it. Yeah, so they had that metadata and that meta-knowledge. But using standard Inner Sphere technology to make something this strong was a game changer in universe, and I wouldn't be surprised to learn that it was some type of response to people making meta builds using the mech creation rules. I have zero source on that last part. That's just like I wouldn't be surprised to find that out sort of thing. But ultimately, it does make it a great goal mech. Now, in universe, it's way too expensive for most people to justify as a single investment. I mean, I think I ran the math at one point, and you could buy something like 20 locusts for the cost of a single one of these. It might have been closer to 18 locusts, but regardless, you can get lances of light mechs for the cost of a single Marauder II. Now, in big battles, that's worth it, but especially for newer mercenary companies, or heck, even a lot of government command structures, this thing is well out of their price range. That balances out pretty well in-universe. Not to mention the in-universe restrictions of you have to be on good terms with the Wolf's Dragoons and get it from Blackwell. They did a good job of making it to where, well, how come something this strong isn't just everywhere? It actually had a reasonable answer, because by the time it's no longer the strongest thing on the field, that's when things start getting relaxed. And I have to appreciate the writers for actually thinking ahead and being like, well, if something's just objectively superior, why isn't everyone using it? Well, that's why. They built in a lot of reasons why most people weren't using it. It's a bit like how the Assassin is objectively better than the Wasp at pretty much everything, and yet it's a horrible mech because it's 20 tons heavier. Yeah, it does everything better than the Wasp, which it was designed to replace, except it's way more expensive and takes up way more time, energy, and most importantly, cost. So it goes down in history as a pretty bad mech, despite technically being objectively superior in every way to the thing it was designed to replace. It's because it was too expensive and too heavy. Anyway, in conclusion, the Marauder II is one of the strongest, if not the strongest, intro tech designs that don't start to get into meta builds, or, special custom character mechs. Again, like the Bounty Hunters, even original Marauder could probably hold its own against some of the Marauder 2 base variants. But regardless, this thing is kind of like a goal mech. Like, if you even like the Marauder, you're gonna love this thing. And if you are, if you come across a Marauder 2 in your travels, especially if it's been salvaged, you would sell some of your other garage contents just to own one of these things, in a lot of cases. The Marauder 2 is a spectacle on the battlefield, and by the time it gets overshadowed, we have stuff like dire wolves on the field that have taken that role. It really does only start to fade once the clans show up. And even then, by the time the clans show up, this thing is helping them actually have a chance to fight back. The Marauder II is very strong, very powerful, and the lore is, frankly, pretty cool. I like to see mech development in universe, and this thing's incredible. Anyway, that concludes today's Reading and Rant, and thank you for listening to my voice.